All right, we're live. Good to go,
Yeah.
mate.
Okay. Hi, my name's Nick Watson. I'm founder of LNPG. Tonight we've got Hammock, and I'm going to let Paul Hilliard explain this because he's been using this, and I'd rather he do it than I do it. So you haven't got me tonight, so I will not be interrupting at all. So you'll be pleased to know. I always get accused of interrupting people and talking too much. But before we go ahead, just like to say thank you very much for turning up today and coming along. And before we start, if you don't want to be recorded or your picture on, please mute it, or you need to leave, because this is being recorded and it will be going up on our website by Friday. And this is the number 31st.
Yeah.
Get down. Recording of Lock-In series. And next week, I just want to get next week out of the way. Who we got next week?
We've got Roma Finance.
Roma Finance the week after.
Oh God, I didn't realise.
I know who it is. It's American Express.
Yeah, it is American Express.
We're doing a deal with American Express. I wanted to get that one in. And the last one of the series will be with Simon Zucci. Okay, so I'm really excited about the next three. So over to you, Paul, and I'll say good night because I've got to go and do a pin meeting. So Paul's running this one. Hope you all have a great night, and I'll watch the video when it goes live out on our website on Friday. So I'd just like to say good night to everybody. Good night.
Cheers, Nick.
Thanks, Nick. Cheers. All right, good evening, everybody. I'd just like to pose a question. Who said property investing allows you to gain passive income? Wow. For me, property investing started as an extra pension plan, as I couldn't stay on my pension pot could keep me in the lifestyle I was loving. So over the years, I've grown my portfolio with a mixture of vanilla buy-to-lets, student, professional, homeless HMOs, and service accommodation units from a 1-bed flat to a 10-bed house. So I self-manage. So really, I have myself another job, and it's called a landlord. But I'm also a trained lawyer and a qualified accountant, so I do my own bookkeeping and my legal stuff. So 2 more jobs. But I'm tired of the panic every year at Christmas / New Year to get my property accounting up to date and into my accountant. I was so glad of the extra month this year. So a couple of months ago, my contact at Less Tax for Landlords recommended I try out some new accounting software. Her parting words were, "It will help you immensely." But I really do owe Anna a great debt, as she was spot on. All of my banking transactions are loaded daily, giving me profit by property, confirmation of rent paid, highlighting any variances or any late payments, identifying any variations to my outgoings, analysis by my bank account, by my property, by my supplier, by my payee. It's absolutely brilliant. My only criticism is it doesn't make me a coffee in the morning ready to review the daily transactions. So, as the saying goes, fintech meets proptech, and it gives me confidence and control in I've got a handle on what is happening. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome the brains behind the idea, that is Use Hammock. Manoj Vasani, MBE, is our guest speaker tonight. So, but before I start, can you share why you have your MBE, Manoj?
Oh, you've put me on here. So I have an MBE because last year, during the height of the pandemic, when the PPE shortage happened and the crisis, Hammock set up a volunteering organization called SOS Supplies. So what we did is we built some tech and recruited loads of volunteers to source PPE in the UK. And so what we did is we sourced, one of our mandates was to make sure the suppliers in the UK had stock in the UK. And we then matched them up with the hospitals and charities who needed them. So we had Mary Curie, Sue Ryder, NSPCC, loads of hospitals, doctors, GPs and schools sourcing PPE through us. And we were literally the last line of defense. So what we did is we shipped PPE out the next day. So literally anyone that used us had already exhausted the government, the NHS, the suppliers. And so what we did is we made sure all of our suppliers were charging fair prices and had stock in the UK. We did that over the weekend and it just blew up. So over 3 months, we shipped over 1 million pieces of PPE. to 250 plus hospitals and charities and schools and surgeries. And we probably shipped around £5 million worth of PPE, and we didn't make a single penny from it. And we had about 20 volunteers who were absolutely fantastic with it. So that's why I got the MBE, and also I do a lot of charity work outside of Hammock as well. Yeah.
Well, congratulations, and I think that deserves a round of applause. Well done. So, tell us about Use Hammock, or I know how to use it, but I'm sure our members are dying to know how to get on with it. So, over to you.
Yeah, first of all, Paul, thank you for the introduction to Hammock in particular. It was fantastic. I don't think I could do a better job than that, to be honest. So, naturally, guys, I'm not a salesman, so this is not my forte of selling products. So maybe that's a good thing for this presentation, to be honest. So Hammock is a property financial platform, and the reason I came up with Hammock is because I'm a landlord myself. Similar to Paul, I wanted to gain financial freedom. So I want everyone to think about, like, why did they become a landlord? And I speak to landlords every single day, and every landlord I speak to has an amazing story or a different story of why they become a landlord. And the recurring theme I see is financial freedom and, like, alternative to pension plan. And it's the same for me. Like, I started investing in property about 7-8 years ago. I've got a portfolio of properties in Manchester and London. I've got a split into limited company and some in my personal name. And the reason I started investing in property is because I wanted to have something for my children when they grow up. And I didn't really invest in pensions. I didn't have a big pension pot. And I never knew how much money I was going to make in the future either. I just knew, like, property, I understood it. I just saw it as a really good investment. And, when I was younger, I moved around quite a bit with my family up and down the country. So having a home is, like, really, really important. So I didn't want the same experience for my children. So that's why I got into property. And then when I got into property, the first thing I realized is how much hard work is required to become a good landlord, and how much time it takes as well. So I'm a part-time landlord. I use letting agents to manage my properties, and I use my accountant to do prepare my accounts. But still, every year I get a HMRC fine because I filed my taxes late, and still every year I get a surprise tax bill because my tax bill is different every year. I never understood why. And so I end up dipping into my savings or dipping into money I don't have. So I thought there's got to be a better solution. And part of the reason why I file my taxes late is because I hate preparing my bookkeeping. I really, really hate doing it. And it takes so much time and effort. So this is how Hammock was born, pretty much. It was born from this idea of helping landlords save time and save money, and literally creating value for them. And those are the three principles that we follow at Hammock: is time, money, and value, because time is just as valuable as money, if not more. Especially like this, if this coronavirus pandemic is highlighted, is time is really short. And I'm sure everyone knows someone that's been affected by, and potentially knows someone that's passed away, sadly. So time for me is more valuable than money. And so I rather dedicate my time doing things that I enjoy doing, spending it with my family, doing charity work. And I think Hammock, as a principle, it sits on time, money, and value. So I'll talk through Hammock. I'll just share my screen with you. Just bear with me. Okay, there we go. So in terms of Hammock, the core of Hammock is banking, bookkeeping, tax statements, and property insights. This is what Hammock specializes in, and it mixes them all up together to get you a fantastic financial property finance platform. How it works is we connect to your bank feeds. So we're FCA regulated for open banking. It takes about 2 minutes to connect your existing bank account. So wherever you collect your rent, so you might have 5 bank accounts or 10 or 20, you can connect all of them up with Hammock. And then Hammock does all the hard work. It goes through your transactions. Once you've told us which ones belong to which properties and tenants, every month, Hammock does probably about 98% of the work for tracking your expenses and tracking your rent. Once you've connected your bank account, you will upload your properties and tenants. And again, uploading your properties takes about 10 seconds per property. So it's really, really quick. Hammock is an online platform and it's also a mobile app. Once the account's set up in total, all your properties and your financial data is organized instantly. I will talk through this now as a demo. And we do have mobile apps as well. And just to recap, so your existing bank accounts are used for rent collection, paying your mortgages. You connect those with Hammock. We do also have an expense card. So if you've got 10 bank accounts, you're not going to carry 10 debit cards around, right? So what we've introduced is a Hammock expense card, which you get 1% cash back for. And so you can use this for buying boiler parts, for rental, for your insurance policies. And behind the scenes, Hammock will categorize that for you. And then you can allocate that to a property. So it's just joining all the dots together. And it's just to really make sure you're not missing any expenses that you can claim for your tax, for example. So without further ado, I go to the platform. Right, so this is the dashboard, which landlords see. So in the dashboard, what we give you is a profit and loss analysis across the whole of the portfolio. Asset analysis, what's your average loan to value, how much capital growth you've had, occupancy rates, your up and coming rent payment. I think I lost you guys there for a second.
Yeah, you're back now.
Yeah, so your upcoming rent payments can either come from a letting agent or it can come from a tenant. We also calculate your yields and your market risk as well. And I'll deep dive into some of these areas shortly. So if we go to properties, and this is where we're really replacing spreadsheets. So I used to calculate my yields, my profit and loss by property using spreadsheets. And so what Hammock is really doing here is trying to kill off the spreadsheet. And how we do that is by connecting the banking transactions with the properties. So if I go into a property, you can see how much money I'm making, profit, income, expense, the arrears, the monthly bookkeeping, the loan to value, property value, equity, mortgage balance. And traditionally, I track all of this in a spreadsheet because I like to know my information. Your property is an asset class, and why shouldn't we track this information? It's really, really valuable. It's not just about the rent collection. It's also about how much capital growth you have. So if you want to grow your personal portfolio, equity and capital growth and mortgage balance is really, really important. So you can compare other properties as well. You can see this one's a bit more stable, the income and expenditure versus this one. To add a property, it's really easy. Paul, do you have a postcode there for me? Yeah, you're just on mute.
Oh, I'm new to this game, mate.
Yeah.
Try DY4.
DY4.
Actually, D for Delta.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's okay. DY4.
9 Echo Alpha.
9 Echo Alpha. Okay, I'll just select any of these.
Yeah.
And then add property. If I go back to the property screen now, I believe it was this one.
That's it.
So Hammock automatically pulls in the Google Street image as well, and it classifies your property as self-assessment by default. So in Hammock, we also work with portfolio structures. So we work with limited companies, and we also work for properties in your personal name. So you can see the property below is in a limited company. The property above is in my personal name. Okay, so there's no transactions tracked here whatsoever. So let's go to the transaction screen. So this is where you can connect your different bank accounts. So I'll just try this. It's a test account to see if it works. So we work with all the major high street retailers and we're FCA regulated. So you just pick the bank account that you use. Once you select the bank account, you then be redirected to the bank. So we never see your banking credentials at all. We are FCA regulated for this and audited by the FCA as well. So it is secured. Once you've connected your bank account, it then pulls in all of your transactions. So we just added a new property. So let's find the rental income for it. So if I do search. So I'm going to say Paul pays £420 a month in my property. I'm going to say it's rental income. I believe it was this property. And it says add tenant, and you can see obviously we don't actually have a tenant. So I'm just going to quickly click on add tenant. Paul. And the tenancy start date, let's just say January 28th. And we say the rental income, you can say monthly, quarterly, annually, weekly. Depending on which one you say, it's depending on how the Hammock algorithm tracks your rental payment. So if you say it's weekly, Hammock will track that rental payment every week. So we're going to say monthly. And that is done. And then once that's added, we automatically detect there's been previous rental payments. So if I click on view matching transactions, because we've gone through the bank account, we can see all the previous rent payments that Paul has done. You can see here, actually, he didn't pay in December. He paid in January, but he didn't pay me in December, Paul. So I'm just going to hit track. That's now done. So if I go back to the property, you can see I got rental income now of $4,200 a month. And you can see the missing rent payment already in December.
I thought I paid that.
No, you didn't, Nick. You still owe me, mate. I'm going to charge interest as well.
Must be a Christmas present from you. Thanks.
So when you click into the property, you have so much information here. So you can see here the profit and loss again. You can upload your documents. You can see your tenant. So if I click into the tenant, Paul, it's automatically calculated my arrears for me and automatically calculated. And this is what we just did on the call. So you can see in December, Paul didn't pay me. And so therefore he's got an arrears balance of £420. So that's how easy it is to use the platform. And this is how powerful the tech is in that sense. It will go back the previous month. Listen, guys, most of the landlords that use us tell us within the first couple of months, Hammock's paid for itself. And the reason, I'll give you an example. One of the landlords that spoke to James 2 weeks ago, he did the same process that we just did there. And he identified one of his tenants didn't pay his rent in June last year. And that was £1,500. He didn't realize the tenant didn't pay. So he then called the tenant up and said, you didn't pay your June rent. And he then said, I made a mistake. I'll send you the money now. But he's now £1,500 up already. I guarantee it, that customer is going to use us for the rest of his life now. It's just that easy. In terms of like the product, it's really good value for money. It's actually really, really cheap. It works out an average £1 per property per month. So it's not actually that expensive. But we'll talk about that a bit later on because we've got LNPG discounts as a purchasing group. So I'll talk a bit about that afterwards. If I go back to the property, we also have a powerful section for documents. So if I click on all documents, So you can actually see your expiring documents for your gas safety certificate, tenancy agreements, EPCs, and you can sort it out by expiring within a month, within 3 months, within 2 weeks. So this really helps you keep on top of things. I use letting agents. They're meant to keep on top of things for me, but occasionally, sometimes they might make a mistake because, you know, after all, everyone's human, but it just helps you keep on top of it as well. So with properties, I talked about portfolios of having limited company and having personal properties, and that's really, really important. If you click onto tax statement, this is gets really exciting. I never thought I would say that about tax statements, but I am. So you can invite your partner to Hammock. So if you co-own a property, so I co-own a property with James, my colleague. I don't really, but let's pretend I did. You can have the 2 filters. So James is invested in these properties with me. But if I click on my name, I actually have my limited company as well, where he's not invested. And I also have the property in my own name that I've invested in. The whole purpose of this is to help forecast my tax bill. And the most important thing actually is for me is preparing my tax accounts early. I don't want to do them in December no more. I'm going to do mine in April this year. I already used Hammock last year and I did it in April and it took me about 30 minutes. And I'm going to show you how. So for the self-assessment, you click on view details. And you can see it says Manoj Vasani owns 70% of this property. So it splits my taxable income by 70%. Total rent and arrears. These are your subtotals you put into your SA 3012 form, I believe it's called. So it automatically calculates that. It's got all the transactions. It's pre-categorized. It's got all the links to the properties. And again, all of this, 98% of it is done automatically. If I click on James, he owns 30%. So it then calculates 30% of his tax bill. So it's very tailored to the ownership structure. And it also tells you your forecast to pay in tax as well in advance, right? And this is how Paul got introduced to the platform, actually. So his accountants said, you need to use Hammock. And I'll be honest with you, the reason that his accountant said that is because it actually makes the accountant's life easier. Because what we've done is standardized all the bookkeeping. So if the accountants are telling all their landlords to use this, it actually helps the accountants as well. You can then download this with the notes. So with the transactions, you can upload receipts and you can also add notes. And you can then share that with your accountant or you can invite them onto the platform. If I go back to limited company, so if I click on Vasani Property Limited, this is now done differently. So what we have here is instead is profit and loss. Because we pay corporation tax and not self-assessment tax, the forecast is calculated differently. And what I didn't show earlier is you can actually show the cost of the P&L by property as well here. So if I select this property, it will actually create the P&L for this limited company relevant to that property as well. So it's really, really powerful stuff. All in all, I'll be honest, it's a very complicated platform to build. It took us 2 years to build, over £1 million worth of investment has gone into this company. We're dealing with tax regulations, we're dealing with FCA regulations, property regulations, tenant regulations. We touch all of it. So it's there's a lot of moving parts. But you know, the platform is pretty powerful and it's very, very automated. That is, I covered most of the features and the benefits, I would say. James, have I missed anything out that's worth highlighting?
No, I think you've covered everything really well there. I'm sure there'll be a few questions. So I'm sure there probably might be a few things to deep dive into. But I think the key thing, I speak to landlords all day, every day, especially our users. And the thing that all of them say is Hammock is so easy to use. And that's kind of the ethos of which we built everything. Whenever we design a new feature or functionality, we always come at it from the point of view is like making it as intuitive to use as possible and as easy to use as possible. And you know, I guess it's one thing watching the demonstration, but if you guys sign up and take advantage, I think you'll see yourself just how easy it is to use.
Yeah, and it's probably worth highlighting. We also have mobile apps as well, so you can actually track payments on the go as well.
Yeah. Before you dive off the app itself, Manoj.
Yeah.
Somebody just asked what happens when you get a letting agent fee come in. So do you want to show the split transaction?
Yeah, sure. So let's, do we have a letting agent example, James, in this demo account that I can use?
Yeah, so if you head to the tenancies, if you head to the tenancy screen, I think there's a couple on there. Yeah, maybe choose Cleverly's or moving on. You can show them how it works.
Yeah. So when you add a letting agent, you tell us how you pay the letting agent fee. So do you pay it annually, weekly, or monthly? And then you say how much the fees are. And then so what that does, it tells us how much to calculate or to deduct off the rent effectively. So when that rent payment comes in, we automatically take the account of the agency fee in advance. Also, if the agent, maybe there's a way for me to show this actually. Let me try look for a transaction, which is income. I'm doing this on the fly, guys, so I apologize if it doesn't work, but let's see if it works. So rental income. Where is that?
I would say I always click split transaction first before I go into anything.
Yeah.
If you
this one's worked, so it's fine.
All right.
So what's happened here is that in this example, the letting agent has repaired a washing machine on your behalf. So they've gone out and paid for this washing machine. So therefore, the letting agent's only paid £50 to me. So what Hammock's detected is the rent is less than expected. Would you like to create an expense for the remainder £708? So what it's done here is it said, you've got an expense at £708 actually, because the rent is less. So if you click on yes, what that will do is create an expense. And then also it will create, so you can say it's some sort of fee or say maintenance repairs. And then that's created that expense. And it automatically, you can see on the screen, is also created a rent top up. So that's actually really, really important, because when the letting agent short pays you for repair or for any work, for bookkeeping purposes, you need to declare the full rental income. So the Hammock platform has automatically created a rent top up of £708.33. And it has also created an expense for that exact amount as well, automatically in the platform. So it does handle letting agent fees and letting agent maintenance work as well. Oh, I'm glad that worked out there.
Should I move through to the other questions then? Because we've got, as you mentioned, quite a lot have come through.
Yeah, sure, go for it, yeah.
So before this webinar started, I had an email about just this. And I think you may have covered this already, but they've said, I have 3 properties. 2 are jointly owned with my wife, and the third is owned 35% by me, 35% by my wife, and 30% by my son.
Yeah.
I've created a spreadsheet which will split the incomes and expenditures proportionately. Will your software allow the same flexibility? The biggest issue is that 30% of the third property and 30% of the property's expenditure need to be assigned by the son, but the rest is split equally.
Okay, so if I understand that correctly, so in when you create a portfolio, let's just call it on family. What you can do is you can add a beneficial owner, or you can add a new owner. So you say this is a personal, and they own 35%, and then you would add the person in, and then you add the email in, and then you add the owner, and then you can keep doing this as many times as you want, up until 100%. The other thing is you can also do it as a limited company. And then in a limited company, you can add shareholders instead. So it does the split automatically. And when I go to tax statements, the beneficial owners, your son, your partner, will all appear here. And then when you click into the self-assessment and where it's got the 3 properties, depending on which person you select, it will say 70%, 30%, etc.
Okay, lovely, thank you. Back to the card that you shown earlier on, the expense card. Is that a credit card, and what APR is charged?
It's not a credit card, so it's a top-up card. So it's actually there's no interest rate at all. So it's a debit card, effectively, which works. Yeah.
Okay. Where would, this one's come through quite a lot actually. Where would you say Hammock is in the market compared to Xero, QuickBooks? I think there's another one, Arthur, Free Agent. A lot of them.
Yeah. It's a really good question. So I say Xero, QuickBooks, probably the easier ones to tackle. So Xero, QuickBooks is a bookkeeping platform primarily targeted at SMEs and limited companies, right? So if you think about everything we do around the bookkeeping, you have to upload your properties. You add your tenants in. You add your documents in if you want to keep on top of your compliance. So we're really, really unique, and we're just specifically niche to the property sector. Whereas Xero, QuickBooks, and Free Agent, which are all very good as well, they are generalist products and not specialist products. Yeah,
makes sense. So you've shown quite a lot about, I mean, regular rental properties, I would say. Even though you can probably get an HMO on there, you can get a regular buy-to-let.
Yeah.
But a large section of our landlords also run serviced accommodation projects as well. How does that fit in with Hammock?
Yeah, so our platform also works with HMOs, and actually it does work with, so we do have a couple of landlords who have actually short-term holiday lets as well. And we do have some that use service lets. We haven't added the filter to flag that just yet, but the system does actually work in regards to that with service accommodation.
Marge, if you just jump over to the transaction screen.
Yeah.
And just filter on any kind of incoming transaction.
Yeah.
So what you can do, if you click on anything that hasn't been categorized yet, and then select other income. So you'll see in there, you can select serviced accommodation or holiday lets, and then you can link that to a specific property. The main difference between serviced accommodation and holiday lets, etc., and like a regular AST or HMO is the frequency of the payments. So with a holiday let serviced accommodation, you would add the property, but you wouldn't necessarily add a tenancy because you're not expecting a certain amount of money every week or every month that you would want to track automatically. But you can still definitely categorize and link any of your payments to that property as serviced accommodation income. You'll then see the P&L you're making on that property. You can still track all your expenses the same, and it will still feed into the tax statement and let your accountant know that is income from a holiday let, which is obviously, realistically, you'd probably set up a separate portfolio for it as well, because the tax treatment is different.
Yeah, it's probably worth highlighting as well what Paul mentioned earlier about split transaction actually. So if you send a plumber out to service like 5 of your gas station certificates in one day in one area, you can actually split the transaction. So if they invoice you in one lump sum, you can actually split the transaction, the £40, 3 times across the different properties. Therefore, you're tracking the different properties. You can also assign an expense or income to the portfolio as well. So if you buy buildings insurance for the whole portfolio, you can also do that as well and link it to the portfolios that we've added as well. So actually, I think that's quite a common question that comes up as well.
Yeah, I think I've seen that in here elsewhere, to be fair. You mentioned earlier on that you can export a CSV with or without notes. So I wonder if this is sort of partially answered already. So Vicky's asked, is there space to add notes about the tenancy, works, etc.? Is that where that would be?
So you can add notes in the transactions, so where the actual work is conducted. So if I click on one of these expenditures, so you can add note, and you can say, fix boiler, and then hit save, and then it'll say who fixed it. So it'll also say, which is quite valuable, who wrote the note down. So if you've invited your accountant or if you've invited your partner, it will actually say their name instead.
Is that then editable then?
It keeps a log. It's not editable, so you just have to keep adding notes as such.
Okay.
Yeah. And the same way, you can add a receipt here as well.
I'm just running through these because I think a lot of them have been kind of answered indirectly already, but
yeah. Sure.
Okay, I get that now. So can it calculate letting fee as a percentage that an agent charges rather than just a figure? And how does it deal with VAT?
Cool. James, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, it's just a good question. So currently our letting agent, when you set up a letting agent tenancy, as your viewer pointed out really succinctly, that we do use the amount, so rather than a percentage, but we have seen quite a lot of users bring this up. So I think it is definitely something we'll probably look to move towards in the future. But currently it is you just put the amount that your agent charges each month. And then when we track the rent, it automatically tops it up to the full amount. And as Manoj says, if they do make any deductions, it will automatically flag that to you and ask you if you want to create an expense for that difference as well. And again, we'll top it up to the full rental amount.
Yeah, and it's probably worth highlighting the VAT section, I think, part of that question. So we are, for limited companies who do pay VAT, that feature is coming soon, actually. So to have a VAT column in particular for VAT returns as well.
This is an interesting question from Glenn, which I don't think it'll happen very much, but it's good to know when it does. So what happens if the rent comes from an unexpected source one month, i.e. the husband's out of the country, so the wife decides to pay from her account instead? Because by the looks of it, Hammock would not categorize that as that property, and they would still be.
Yeah, so there's a few layers of our, shall we say, our algorithm of how it calculates and detects rent payment. So if it is paid by a different person from a completely different bank account, the user's correct that the Hammock platform will struggle to detect that to some degree. What we do have is the exact amount, right? So with the amount that's been paid, Hammock might be able to detect, depending on how many other rent payments they receive with that amount, a suggestion list of, we believe this rent payment belongs to this property, if that makes sense. But that really is dependent on like all the other data that we have from the income that we've collected on that day or around that time as well. So it's quite sophisticated, the algorithm. It doesn't want to assume this is from the partner. It will rather you tell us, it might suggest to you, this is from the partner, or this is rent belongs to the property, but you will need to confirm that, because we don't want the technology to make decisions automatically when the source of the funds is different.
Yeah, and if Hammock didn't pick up that transaction automatically, the way that would work in theory is you as the landlord get a notification that there's was an expected rent payment that hasn't been paid. So effectively, if you're looking at this screen here, where you've got an upcoming payment on the 19th of March, if it gets to the 20th of March and that hasn't been paid, then you get notified that there's a late rent payment. And likely the first thing you would do is log into the mobile app or jump on your laptop, check your transaction list, and you might see, oh yeah, it looks like somebody else paid it this month. And you would just click on it, say, this is rent from E. Norris, save, and it's done. So, even if it doesn't track automatically, you still get that notification and that prompt to come in and look. In reality, it's probably not really an issue anyway.
Well, that sort of segues quite nicely into this next question, which is kind of the same thing, but probably going to happen more often, which is, how does it handle part payments of rent? Does the system recognize that in a similar way?
Yeah, so we're always forever improving our algorithm. So, it took us at least 10, 12 months to actually build it, right? So what that actually means is we look at multiple sources. One is like, who's sending that money? Which bank account has that come from? What's the description? What's the reference? And what's the amount? So what we try to do is narrow it down through the different verticals of, we've got 99% or 100% accuracy. This person is definitely the tenant. And if that's the case and they pay a short amount, we will then auto reconcile that. But if it's a letting agent, for example, we need to know, did they short pay because they repaired something? And so therefore you need to log in and tell us that, for example. So there's a bit of logic behind the scenes, but yes, it can. If someone short pays, actually I can show you here. Is there another tenant I can look at, James?
Yeah, just go to the bottom.
This one?
Just go all the way, yeah.
Let's see. So this is what it looks like when someone's underpaid or overpaid. So you can see here that there's actually several different things going on here. So you can actually write off rent. So if you've agreed that tenant's not going to pay that rent, you can write it off. You can see when a tenant's underpaid, and you can also see a tenant when they've overpaid as well. Yeah. And if they made multiple transactions, this number here will change to 2 or 3. And so you can then expand that and see the transactions listed underneath that as well. I'll see if there's another example in the test actually, which I can look at.
And going back to the original question, you almost don't really want it to auto track underpayments, because if there is a reason for that, like Hammock will offer you that opportunity to create an expense. So I know I actually only have one property, but quite often my tenant's amazing. So quite often, whenever there's a problem with the property, like some damp, he'll say, there's some damp, I can go and buy some damp paint for 50 quid, whatever, and I'll take it off the rent. And so when it does that, when I track that rent payment, Hammock will say, this is less than expected. Do you want to create an expense? And I can say, yeah, repairs, and it will top the rent up to the full amount, and it will create that expense for me. So almost, you almost want to give the user the opportunity to tell the system, like, why is this less? And because if it will offer you, do you want to create an expense? And if it's really that they've just underpaid, you just say no, and it will create the arrears for you. But it's you almost want that. You want, as a user, you want to be able to say to the system and have that flexibility of, is there a reason for this?
Yeah, just to give that example, so here, as I mentioned earlier, you got 2 transactions here, so you can see the two different payments. So it's very, very sophisticated in terms of how it works and the tracking there is and tracking payments. You can also export this and print this off as well. So if you do need to go through a court order, you can actually export this off in the CSV as well.
Okay, thank you. So the second part, this is, I mean, that was a big question anyway, but the second part of this is something that I think I asked you when we first met, which is LNPG is all about landlords saving money on their refurbs. This very much is a great tool for ongoing tenancies, but can it handle refurbs for property expenses as well?
Yes, it can. So when you categorize an expense, so the tax rules as well. So, we work with accountants to create the tax rules. We don't create them ourselves. So when you have an expense, you can pick what type of expense it is. So I think it's in here. You got home improvements, general maintenance. What else do we have, which is worth sharing? Yeah, I think that's the main one. So maintenance is worth.
If you go into money, specifically for limited companies, you've got kind of like your capital expenditure, director's loan, and then also if you're flipping properties, then we've got lots of different categories in buy and sell. Although going back to Paul's point, realistically, if you're purchasing a property, or selling a property, even there'll be one transaction, but realistically that transaction will be made up of multiple different transactions. So the money in minus your legal fees, minus your stamp duty, whatever. So you'd probably use the split transaction function, and then you can break that down into all the different pieces, so that from your so that your accountant can see the breakdown.
The main thing is we've created the different tax rules behind what each category effectively, whether it's balance sheet or whether it's profit and loss.
Okay, lovely. Anne's asked, and I imagine the answer to this is yes, but I'm not sure I understand it. Will I still require an accountant when landlords have to report via MTD? I don't know what MTD stands for, if I'm honest.
Yeah, so making tax digital. So MTD, Hammock is MTD ready. You will need to use an accountant still, or you will need to use a third. So if you do self-assessment and you don't use an accountant, you will still need to use a tax filing system behind the scenes to submit the data to. But yes, you'll still need to use an accountant for that. So most of our landlords use accountants, and the ones that don't, they just take our data and put it into another system. Copy and paste in the spreadsheet values effectively.
Okay. Graham's asked, does it cope with property owner by LLP? As tax is closer to personal tax than limited company, but it is a corporate entity.
Yeah, so I think Paul is a perfect example of this. So less tax for landlords, most of their structure is LLP. Less tax for landlords has recommended Hammock for their landlords for the LLP structure. So yeah, the short answer is yes, basically. Paul, is there anything to add there? I don't know. Paul, is there anything to add there, really?
Yeah, I mean, all I'd say is that if you've got some properties, it's a bit like you were setting up showing on the personal and limited company. All you do is that if you've got, say, half a dozen of your properties in an LLP, you just set it up as a separate portfolio.
Yeah. So you would.
And again, you were talking about LLPs. How you split the profits. You then put that in there, and that will give you the relevant numbers at the end of the year or month.
Good stuff.
This is quite an interesting one, because you've got the split payment function already, but this is a slightly different take on that. So if an HMO rent goes to the account as one payment from the agency, in reality, that is different amounts paid per tenant. So will it show on the system as payments for each tenant, or just the total for the property?
That's a very good question. Yeah. So if your letting agent pays it as one lump sum, which is what this scenario is, you will need to split the transaction by rental income. Let me show you. So you can take this one. So when you split the transaction, you can actually do it as income and then rental income. Yeah. And then if you say monthly, we will then pick it up. So yes. So as soon as you tell us the first time the letting agent pays you, and this is how they pay you, and you split it, after that, Hammock takes care of the rest.
So if that comes in short at one point, then there's different questions to be asked. It's not just
Yeah, so it's at that point you will need to manage it manually. And so what I mean by that is, you will need to click on Add Transaction manually.
Okay.
Yeah, so this widget here.
Lovely. Can this platform create invoices?
No, it can't create invoices. I'm not. The honest answer is I'm not sure if we're going to go down that route. But if there's a large enough push from our landlord to say, look, can you create invoices? Then we'll probably go down that route. For our letting agents, we do actually have invoices. So there may, if we have to pull it across for the landlords, then I don't see why not. We won't do that. But yeah, I think if there's a large enough ask from the landlords, then yeah, I don't see why we wouldn't do that.
You want to be careful with this lot, Manoj. Everyone's going to be asking the question in a second.
Yeah, that's fine.
Can you upload receipts, and if so, how?
Yeah, I'll just show you quickly. So you just click on the transaction, add receipt.
Ah,
yeah.
That was easy. And is it still necessary to balance the bank accounts with receipts and invoices?
No, you don't need to do that. So the beauty of Hammock is we're taking the real cash value from the bank accounts. So you don't need to input the receipt data at all.
Okay, well, I've come to the end of the questions at last. They came through in one big siege there, but I think it's worth throwing over to Paul, because you've used this system for a couple of months now, and you are usually notoriously bad, hard to contact when it comes to tax season, because you just bury yourself in it. How have you gotten on so far?
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Because once you set up whatever item you want to set up, so if you've got your rental income, as Manoj showed, you put it in once and it then matches up all the previous transactions. So for example, you can do that on the expenses, exactly the same. So I've got Virgin Media for all my broadband. So nearly all my HMOs on the same broadband, same amount, but on different days. So we'll literally just set it up to say, I've got 3 on the one day. I've just inputted those and said, this one's 92, this one's 98, and that's 107. And you do it once and it goes back and matches all. You have to be a bit clever on that because it will pick up everything that's there, but you just pick up those relevant dates and go, right, everything on the 18th is those 3 addresses. It's simple. I think after about 2 weeks, maybe 3 at the most, and don't forget I'm doing a portfolio in excess of 30 houses. It's all set up and it's all coming through, and you literally come in on a daily basis. You just go in and check, like there's one there, 17th of March, click to track, you literally go, oh yeah, that's so-and-so, and you just go in and allocate it, and it's as simple as that, done in 30 seconds, maybe a minute max. It is literally, as Manoj was showing you, it's almost instant. So you just click to track, identify what cost it is, identify which property, which expense item, and if it needs further category like maintenance, you identify whether is it a capital item, i.e. a new kitchen. No, it isn't. It's a replacement window or whatever. You either you just click on it, say repairs, and away you go. So you've analysed it. And if it's a big enough amount, you can then add your notes to say, yeah, we repaired, bedroom, room 1, 2, and 5 windows or whatever. So you know which windows you've allocated. So yeah, it's very simple. And
I bet you don't know what to do with yourself now, Paul.
What I won't do after, I'm even thinking about sending it to my accountant on the 1st of April and going, there you go. And he'll have a heart attack. He surely will. Chris, don't you? He won't believe it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Same with my accountant last year. He goes, I can't believe you submitted your accounts early for once. I still did it wrong for my other income. But yeah.
But it's literally... I think either Richard or somebody I noticed said, how do you allocate certain items? So, for example, credit cards, you do the credit card payment. So I nearly pay most of mine through credit cards. So I've done, you've got the bank statement, so credit card statements. You download that into Excel and you just allocate it, and then I summarize it and just say, right, I'm doing, of the 5,000, there's probably about 30 different transactions there split across different houses, and it allocates it, and very simple. So you can allocate as much as you like, and then split the payments up. So I do a big trade warehouse payment, and I just go into that invoice and go, right, I need to split this out. Sometimes I'll just allocate it to one house. Other times I'll split it and go, right, that's those 4 houses, just allocate it, and it's done. Fit and forget. And so I am, well, as people who know me, I would not be inviting you to Hammock onto here if I wasn't impressed with what I've seen. So
yeah, I'll tell you an interesting story. We actually reached out to LNPG over 1.5 years ago, and they said no to us. And you probably don't know this, Anthony. And,
Who was it?
I don't remember who it was, but Less Tax for Landlords tried to recommend.
I bet it was Paul.
Yeah, but obviously, since Less Tax for Landlords started using it for their landlords, and then Paul was using it, that's why we got through the door, basically. So if Paul wasn't using it, I don't know if we would have got through to LNPG. But
yeah, I probably would have said, oh, don't need it. I mean, honestly, as an accountant, I've set up spreadsheets, and I battle through them for my wife said it felt like all of last year, because Less Tax was saying I want the year accounts early, so I've done them by November. But it took me, I think, from probably June to November to get them all done.
Yeah, and the other thing the platform is good for is replacing spreadsheets for the LTVs, equity and capital growth. So I didn't show this, but you can actually add valuations as well. And then when you add a new valuation, you select the property, the date and amount, and you actually select the source as well. So you can keep a track history of your valuations as the property portfolio is growing. And obviously, estate agent and mortgage valuation are very solid valuations on your property. So you can do stuff like that as well. And your mortgages, you can track your expiry dates. We give you alerts when your mortgages are expiring. So there's actually quite a lot in this platform. It took us 2 years to build it. Just some interesting insights there. But it is a massive platform, and you get a lot for your money for it.
Well, I'm glad that we finally said yes. I think that's a good piece of software.
Is it worth talking about the discounts for LNPG?
Oh, of course. Yeah, that's what we're here for.
Yeah. So we've given a special discount for LNPG because they bring bulk users on. Just head over to Use Hammock and LNPG. We will need to verify your LNPG members as well, because we don't want to offer this discount to everyone.
It's another thing probably worth mentioning here is, like, I know it's probably quite a lot to take in over a demo, and Hammock is a very simple system to use, and it's, as I say, it's very intuitive. But we do also offer a free onboarding service, so you can book some time with one of our team, depending on the size of your portfolio, and half an hour or an hour. And we can basically take you through the process. So show you how you add your properties, how you connect your bank account, how you start tracking those first rents and expenses. To be honest, I say once you've done that, you'll be able to do it all. You'll be well away anyway. And I say most people will be able to just do it without an onboarding call. But I know some landlords just like on day one, they just like that kind of one-on-one help, and that's kind of what we're here for. So yeah. If you're going to sign up, don't be shy and book an onboarding session with us.
Yeah. Also, just to add to that, we also have mobile apps. So once you are set up, the mobile app is available to existing customers only. So once we've set you up on your account and you're up and running, you can then download the app and log in, and you can do a lot of the features and functionalities like tracking your bookkeeping, your profit and loss and yields. It'll all be accessible there.
I just noticed another question, actually. Sorry, Anthony, I'm doing a job for you. But
do the rest of it if you like.
Vicky's just asked how much for 40 properties or 40 plus. So our regular pricing is £1 per property above 10. So 40 properties would be £40 plus VAT per month. But with LNPG, we're doing that half price, so 50p per property. So 40 properties would be only £20 a month plus VAT, which, yeah, I think is a steal, quite frankly.
Well, lovely. You've stolen my last question, really. But it's been great having you guys on. It's truly a wonderful piece of technology, and I'm a little bit sad that we ever said no to it to begin with. But I'm glad you're here now.
Maybe you should have seen the first version of it. So.
That was it.
You didn't see it, but yeah, the first version wasn't as good as this. But it's probably worth highlighting as well. So this platform we're showing you here is our stage in a test environment, which is, so all this data is dummy. None of it's real. We'll never share customer data. Even the bank accounts are not real. I probably can show. So the Hammock expense card is like this. So we've got 3 different Hammock cards, showing a couple of them on my video, but you can actually make payments, and you can have multiple bank accounts transfer. So we have actually banking functionality separately as well. So if you're setting up a limited company, you can actually set up a limited current account with us as well. It's probably just worth highlighting that. So we're almost a one-stop shop platform for your banking, your bookkeeping, your tax statements, and your property insights.
As Nick would say, if I can use it, then it is simple to use. So there you go.
I was just going to say that, Paul. It's worth mentioning that Hammock is still relatively new to us. We're very glad to have the guys here with us tonight, but keep your eyes peeled, because we will be launching with them as an official partner to the LNPG framework very soon.
Amazing.
Absolutely. So.
Yeah. And we are on the Facebook group as well. So if there are any questions or any comments, you can get in touch there as well.
Thanks, Marco.
Yeah.
So, any final points that think any secret developments that you're doing that you're going to share with us tonight?
I guess the balance sheet stuff.
Yeah, so there's a lot of deployments going on over the next couple of weeks. So the tax statement page we just showed you today is going live literally this week or early next week. There is a tax statement page there already, but the one we showed you today with like the percentages broken down by the beneficial owners, that's going there. We didn't show you the inviting your partners and users. You can actually do that as well on the platform, and you can give them different roles, and you can also invite your accountant to the platform as well, so they can fetch the data as well. But we're always adding to our roadmap, and there's always big projects going on, like the VAT stuff as well.
We are releasing so many features that we send out weekly updates about anything new or anything that we refresh, etc. So if I may say so myself, our emails are worth reading. So you're welcome to subscribe to it as well.
Yeah, our subject lines are quite funny, but yeah.
Super, excellent. Anything else, Sensei? I know we got you let it out earlier, or Nick did that. We've got Roma Capital next week. So if you're in the market for a bridging project, that needs bridging next week, by all means, listen in and see what Roma have to tempt you to borrow funds off them.
Yeah, well, you took the words out of my mouth there, Paul. Thanks everyone for showing up tonight. Thanks a lot, Hammock, and members, of course. And I look forward to seeing you all next week.
Yeah, and thank you very much for having us. I really, really appreciate it. And thank you everyone for joining this webinar. And I apologize. I'm not a salesman, so I'm not very good at this, but yeah, there you go.
You did phenomenally, Manoj.
Okay. All right. Thanks, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks, guys. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone. Good night.